Welcome to APCUG's Saturday Safari, where we embark on a journey through the thick jungle of technology jargon, seeking the lost treasured answer to our tech mysteries. Today, we're really excited to have back with us many times, J.B. Burke. J.B. grew up in Chicago and graduated from Illinois Institute of Technology. He moved to Silicon Valley and worked for IBM for 32 years, and then for others in the tech industry for another 8 years. After he retired, he and his wife Nita moved to Prescott, Arizona. JB is the president of the Prescott Computer Society and the secretary of his neighborhood HOA board. He also provides tech support for his friends and his neighbors. JB dabbles in photography and serves on the tech committee for the Yavapai College OLLI, which is the Osher Long Life Learning Institute program. OLLI students are adults over 50 who join to explore topics they find intellectually stimulating without formal academic requirements. As a volunteer facilitator, JB occasionally teaches classes, shares his enthusiasm for technology with fellow learners. He also acts as a liaison between OLLI and APCUG. Otherwise, he's happily retired. We have JB present to us just about every year on one of his favorite projects, which includes searching the web for unique, different sites. And each year, or maybe twice a year, he puts together what he calls touring the web, World Wide Web. And today he's with us today with his newest tour. And so I'm going to turn things over to JB and have him amaze us and entertain us with lots of interesting websites. JB, over to you. Welcome to APCUG's Saturday Safari, where we embark on a journey through the thick jungle of technology jargon, seeking the lost treasured answer to our tech mysteries. Today, we're really excited to have back with us many times, J.B. Burke. J.B. grew up in Chicago and graduated from Illinois Institute of Technology. He moved to Silicon Valley and worked for IBM for 32 years, and then for others in the tech industry for another 8 years. After he retired, he and his wife Nita moved to Prescott, Arizona. JB is the president of the Prescott Computer Society and the secretary of his neighborhood HOA board. He also provides tech support for his friends and his neighbors. JB dabbles in photography and serves on the tech committee for the Yavapai College OLLI, which is the Osher Long Life Learning Institute program. OLLI students are adults over 50 who join to explore topics they find intellectually stimulating without formal academic requirements. As a volunteer facilitator, JB occasionally teaches classes, shares his enthusiasm for technology with fellow learners. He also acts as a liaison between OLLI and APCUG. Otherwise, he's happily retired. We have JB present to us just about every year on one of his favorite projects, which includes searching the web for unique, different sites. And each year, or maybe twice a year, he puts together what he calls touring the web, World Wide Web. And today he's with us today with his newest tour. And so I'm going to turn things over to JB and have him amaze us and entertain us with lots of interesting websites. JB, over to you.
Do you see a interesting pattern or a strange pattern there? Just going around in circles, or it should.
Yeah, that's of no particular importance. I just something I found on the internet, oddly enough.
Say,
Anyway,
I am under your control now. I am hypnotized.
yeah, that's I do that in order to get people so they'll give me a high rating on these presentations. Well, this is Touring the Web number 16. It's actually 96 in the total because there was 80 different ones and under a different name that I did prior to calling it Touring the Web. So this is my 96th shot at this particular type thing. And it's mostly things that I find and so forth. So I put in a kind of a description this time. What is touring the web? I actively or inadvertently look around and discover random bits of information that may be educational, interesting, or otherwise valuable. Things that either didn't exist or couldn't have been easily unearthed just a few decades ago. The thing I come up with, the idea that you ever drive along and you see a billboard that has some word on it that you're not familiar with, and 30 years ago you'd have gone to your grave never having found out what that word was, but now you just go home and you click on Google and you say, what does so-and-so mean? And you get it right away. So this is things that didn't used to be easily found. So we'll see what kind of stuff we come up with here. Hopefully something of interest or valuable to you. First of all, a Swedish company called Corvid Cleaning is beginning to training crows in the city of Södertälje, whatever that is, to collect cigarette butts in exchange for food rewards. Crows are known to be very intelligent birds, and so they're using these crows to pick up cigarette butts around the town and drop them off into this machine, for which they get a small reward. So there's a way of keeping the place clean without having to use any extra energy. Just one of those weird things that you find on the internet.
Hey man, can I give you $100 to paint this MacBook?
Yes, of course.
There you go. Just go crazy, okay?
No problem, don't worry.
Yeah, that's good, man. Protect it. Wow. Woo. Whoa.
I'm not sure you'd want to have this done to your MacBook, but this guy was brave and bold and $100 to spend. And he found quite a good street artist here.
Wow. Damn, those are good textures.
This is
Bro, those colors were like under there the whole time. Wow. Wow. Nice. Wow. Those colors are crazy. Wow. No ways, bro. But that's sick. Amazing.
So if you've got a MacBook
Hey, man.
and you wanted to get it looking pretty weird, you could do that. But I don't know where that guy is. Not in the US, I think. Now we all use credit cards pretty much to pay for everything. I find myself very seldom using cash anymore. What did the $1 bill used to look like? Now we know what it looks like in recent times, but the United States began issuing a series of paper banknotes in 1861, but it wasn't until the following year that the $1 bill arrived. They started with the 5, 10, and 20, but the $1 came up a little later. And there have been many designs of these. If you happen to have one of these anywhere in your house, don't spend it because it's got to be worth a lot more. But here, starting out with the 1862 United States note, very artistic. A lot of these have got a lot of wild stuff on them, a lot of very artistic things that came up in the past. That was 1862 and 1869. This came up to be the United States note, the $1 United States note. Again, one of those that I wish I had in my possession. The 1886 silver certificate, $1 silver dollar. So in those days, it was equivalent. You could trade it for a silver dollar. The 1896 silver certificate, got some more art going on here, and portraits of George and Martha. 1899 silver certificate, still looking at silver certificates in those days. Even the 1928 silver certificate, but it's looking much more like the modern version at this point. The front, this part looking much more reasonably close to the current one. And then finally, the 1963 Federal Reserve note that we're all familiar with. No longer silver certificate, no longer tradable for a silver dollar. Take a lot of these to buy a silver dollar these days. All right, the world's first wind-powered underwater data center has been unveiled in China. China has finished construction of what they're calling the world's first wind-powered underwater data center. Now that takes care of two things, where the electricity comes from and where the cooling comes from. He said it cost about 1.6 billion yuan or 226 million. Combines offshore wind power, which has been the kibosh put on in this country because some people think it's not really as good as it is, and which supplies 95% of the facility's electricity and a naturally cool seabed environment to cut energy and land use. So it says reduces total power consumption by 22.8%, eliminate the use of fresh water, and reduces land use by 90% because it's all underwater.
Will data centers on the seafloor power the AI revolution? According to China, they will. AI is hungry, and one of its biggest cravings is power. Cooling AI servers is not just a technical challenge, it is one of the most expensive parts of scaling AI. But China may have just found a solution. Underwater data centers, fully operational. Shenzhen High Cloud has deployed 500 high-performance servers on the seafloor. The seawater itself cools them down. No fans, no air conditioning, just physics and ambition. That single facility handles over 7,000 deep learning queries every second. It is more efficient, more scalable, and already saving tens of millions of kilowatt hours annually. Meanwhile, in 2018, Microsoft ran a successful pilot in the US codenamed Natick, and then stopped. Why? Scaling it commercially proved too challenging. This is the new race. AI is energy constrained, and it's not just about better models, but cheaper and faster infrastructure. Whoever powers AI most efficiently wins. And right now, China is not just experimenting, it's building fast.
So you can see a couple of different things here that wouldn't work here right now because the wind power thing is kind of off the table. What if we can't control it? What's our backup plan? I said, relax. I'm sure we'll think of something. Yeah, good question. We'll see. Time will tell. All right, map U.S. states with the most data center in 2025. Virginia dominates right now in the total number of U.S. data centers. They have got more than 600 facilities in that state. Network effects, cheap power, and cloud hyperscaler clusters make Northern Virginia the world's most critical internet hub. Who'd have thought Virginia would be that? But there it goes. So here is the map showing how many data centers there are in the U.S. In Arizona, where I am, 164. You can check around and see your own state. Idaho, 10. Utah, 44. I believe in Utah, they just announced that they had a plan to build a data center that was going to be the size of Manhattan and use more energy than the entire rest of the state. but I'm not sure whether that really went through. I think that might have put the kibosh on that, but that was going to be a huge data center there. Anyway, 413 in Texas, 665 in Virginia, 321 in California, and this is an amazing number of data centers. I just am boggled by the number that are all over, even 9 in Hawaii and 4 in Alaska. All right, on to something totally different. There's something called a histomap that was produced by somebody named John B. Sparks in 1931. It shows the extent of different civilizations throughout time. What he tried to do was to show 4,000 years of human civilization wrapped up in one humongous visual. The thing goes down. We'll show you an image of it in just a minute. The wider the column, the more influence they had at that point in history. So he was having to determine that himself from his own studies of history. Made almost a century ago, there's obvious limitations in the modern context, which are discussed in the article, which is here. Now, one of the things about that, I will provide to John and Judy by the next day or two. I'll send a PDF file of this presentation, which will have all the links in there. The videos won't be in it, but the links to the videos will be in there. So you'll be able to just, once they get distributed or made available, you'll be able to just click on the links and see what the stuff, what it's saying. So visual capitalist, this will be in there, so you'll be able to see it on your own time. So, oops, you know what? I must have moved something around and not noticed it. Drat. All right, we'll get back to the visual of that in a few moments, but something else arrived. I was doing sorting yesterday on this, and unfortunately, I sorted things inadvertently. All right, U.S. states with the most low-wage workers. Nationwide, 30% of workers, about 45.2 million people, earn less than $20 an hour. Texas has the largest number of low-wage workers. Mississippi has the highest share or percentage of low-wage workers. 52% of people in Mississippi earn less than $20 an hour. The District of Columbia has the lowest share of number of low-wage workers, 11% share and 41,000 total. All right, here is a chart showing the share of workers starting in Texas, 5.1 million, but 38%. In Arizona, where I am, 31% and 963,000 low-wage workers. But this chart covers the whole U.S., so here all the way down to D.C. So you'll be able to see that online when you get this, or actually in the presentation when you get the PDF. Here's the histomap. I don't know how I got those two stuck in there. The histomap, 4,000 years of world history, relative power of contemporary states, nations, and empires. So he goes back to 1650 BC, 2000 BC. The Aegeans, the Egyptians, the Hittites, the Amorites, all the different civilizations that were around at that time, including the Indians and the Chinese and the Iranians, go back that far. Now, I would like to have had a chart here, let it go through the whole thing, but it would have taken about 6 screens to do the whole thing. So I just note that many screens down, as you go scrolling through this, we get down to the latest. Now, he did this in 1931. So you've got down here, you got Latin America, you've got the United States, you've got various other countries, continental European powers and so forth. So it's just something kind of interesting to glance at. I don't think you spend much time studying this, but it is an interesting attempt that he made at this, showing all of history, civilizations in one chart.
Nearly 1 in 3 people over the age of 65 experience a fall each year, making it the most common form of injury among older adults in the U.S. An analysis of Medicare records conducted in 2024 found a concerning link between falls and cognitive decline. Among more than 2.4 million claims for physical injury by senior Americans, those who were injured from a fall were 20% more likely to be diagnosed with dementia within a year than after any other accident. Though the study can't be used to show cause and effect, the researchers believe the issue is complicated. It's possible falls might speed up the loss of brain cells, leading to dementia, while dementia may make falls and resulting injuries more likely. It's also possible the medications patients are on may further complicate the picture, making either falls or cognitive decline worse. Other potential earlier warning signs of the cognitive impairments that lead to dementia include loss of visual sensitivity, poor mental health, and increased nightmares. Adding a fall to this list could allow specialists to intervene early. Stay tuned for more discoveries right here on Science Alert. Like and subscribe to see more of our content.
So this is something I ran across, and to me, that makes a lot of sense to be extremely careful about falls. I have fallen twice in my life. Fortunately, they were some years ago, so I don't know that they had a lot of impact on my own potential to get dementia, but it's one of those things that just you want to keep very conscious of, that falling, and especially hitting your head if you fall, would be an extremely undesirable thing. Now, there are ways to get around dementia as well, to try to protect yourself a little bit, and I found two things that I thought were kind of interesting. First of which is that the shingles vaccine apparently has an impact, a strong impact on dementia reveal. Now, by the shingles vaccine, we're talking about Shingrix. It's the newest one. There was an older shingles vaccine that was not as effective, but this one is the newest one, and there's two doses of this, but it costs money. It wasn't covered completely by Social Security, I think, as I recall. We had it a couple of years ago is when I got it, when my wife and I both got this. But new research shows that this may reduce Alzheimer's risk and slow cognitive decline. Compelling connections with findings suggestion may not only prevent dementia, but also slow its progression in people also facing the diagnosis. So that's kind of a hard one to beat. They both prevent shingles, which is something that you definitely want to prevent, because I've got neighbors and friends that have had shingles, and they're very much not in favor of that. And then reducing the risk or progression of dementia. Also, cheese has been linked to lower dementia risk in a 25-year study. Been published in the journal Neurology. And the finer points in the article, you get the link, will be in here. Established an association between daily consumption of high-fat cheese and lower dementia risk that's statistically detectable. One of the finest foods available, found that eating 50 grams or 1.76 ounces or more of high-fat cheese daily corresponds with a lower risk of dementia. Means that all cheeses with more than 20% fat content, including brie, Gouda, cheddar, Parmesan, Gruyere, and mozzarella. It followed 27,670 adults in Sweden for around 25 years. So an interesting correlation there. So don't fall, get your shingles shot, and eat cheese to prevent dementia. And it's better to grow old with a sense of humor than to grow old with no sense at all. All right, time to travel. This is coming up on travel season. We're getting in the spring. We're getting into the summer. You might want to keep this handy on your next vacation. Avoid the worst value attractions. An analysis was organized by the money-saving website Coupon Birds. Each attraction was categorized based on its location and precisely what kind of attraction it is. And each state's attractions were ranked by the number of times the TripAdvisor reviews had flagged them as expensive. So if they're high cost and maybe not as well liked, those are ones to avoid. Here is the map showing by state the worst value family attraction. So depending on where you are, if you're in Williamsburg, Colonial Williamsburg, they claim is Six Flags, Henry Doorly Zoo in Nebraska, Sea Life of Mall of America in Minnesota, Buffalo Bill Center of the West in Wyoming. In our Arizona area here, they flagged the Meteor Crater and Barringer Space Museum. About 100 miles from here, there's what's called the Meteor Crater, which is a humongous, I guess, the largest visible meteor crater in the U.S. in the lower 48 at least. huge meteor crater. Interesting to see, but not a good value according to what people are saying. If you want to check out what the weather is, now this is getting into another thing here, Earth cams. There are lots and lots of cameras all over the country, all over the world that let you see things way beyond your own home at any given moment. In Prescott in particular, where I am, when I developed this, there's a place called Touchmark, which is a senior living facility. It is not far from here, about a 10-minute drive. And it overlooks Arizona State Route 69 and Prescott Lakes Parkway, a live 24-hour stream. So if we clicked on that, we will bring up a screen that should show us exactly what it looks like over there right now. This is from the rooftop of this Touchmark, which is built up on a hill. There's lots of hills around here, as you can see. They're all hilly all over the place. Down here, you've got the local In-N-Out Burger and restaurant down there, and the parking lot for Walmart, which is over to the right. But now we can see exactly what the traffic looks like right there. But now we're going to go back to the presentation and go on to the next page, where we're going to look at EarthCam. So if you're not that particularly interested, if you're in North Carolina, or if you're in Florida, you may not be all that interested in what the traffic is on the road down the street from me, but you might look at some other places around the world. So here is EarthCam, live webcams. We can click over to that one and take a look at what some of the possibilities are. Travel the globe with EarthCam's live webcams. Now we're going to go and scroll down a bit here on the screen. And so here's a map of the world. Now you can look just about anywhere and see numbers that we're going to look up here. So let's take a look at, let's see what this one here is. At 1113 means there's lots of webcams around there. So 1113, okay, 147 here. Let's see what that brings us. So let's take a look at well, whatever this one here is. Hayden, Kansas. In Hayden, Kansas, here is a live view of the street in Hayden, Kansas, the Hayden Cam. Somebody just came up to a stoplight, made a stop, and made a right on the right, which is good. So anyway, there are hundreds, actually thousands of these cams. That guy didn't make much of a stop for his right turn. This guy didn't make any stop at all for it. Maybe he's got a green light now, but I don't know. Anyway, so all these cams all over the world, you can see interesting things. They're not all like this. There's others that are better than that, more interesting things. But that's just a way to take a look. If you had a little time to spend, see what's out there, and look at some other part of the world surreptitiously. All right. Question asked on Ask Leo, which is a great free newsletter. Do I really need a recovery email? And I picked up on this one because I ran across this myself personally a while back. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But when you have an email account, just about any email account that I know of, and Gmail is the ones I use mostly, you want to have an alternate email address or an alternate telephone number to allow you to regain access if your account is hacked or you forgot your password. The recovery email accounts are separate from your regular email accounts. So if you've got abc@gmail.com, you might want to set up as xyz@gmail.com also as a recovery account. Now, that means you've got to set up a second account. You got to have more than one email account, and you have to have a telephone and should have a telephone number as well. And both of them can get you in trouble if you're not careful. If you lose access to your main account, you can receive a code that proves you are you and lets you back into your primary account. Make sure you keep your recovery account up to date and access it periodically. So, first of all, you would make a second account, a second Gmail address that is your own, that you would protect to keep it your own, so you'll have access to it. And secondly, if you've got a phone number, what you want to do is make sure you keep that phone number as well. I ran into this several years ago. We used to do a thing at the local library where we had set up once a month to have people come in and ask questions and have us help them with things on their laptops and their tablets and so forth. And a woman came in, sat down next to me with her phone, and she said she can't get into her Gmail because she had lost access to the account that she previously had set up as a backup account. And I said, well, how about a backup phone number? She said, well, she didn't have that anymore because that phone number got changed. So now here she had a Gmail account that had a backup email address that she couldn't access and a Gmail and a phone number she couldn't access. And so she lost her Gmail account. There was no other way to get in. Google will not go and look for you online and tell it to you. Maybe if you were the president of the United States or something like that, you could get them to do it, but they will not do that for you. So if you don't have that backup information, and you are like me, you're the one that keeps a lot of stuff in your email account, you store things, so you use them for resources and for referencing and so forth, you could lose that Gmail address completely. Then the other thing, of course, you'd have to do at that point is tell all your friends and relatives that you've got a new address, so you have to start doing a lot of work online. So you do really need a recovery email, and you must keep it up to date and keep it relevant. 2 reasons to not reuse passwords also from Ask Leo. Hackers keep track of your passwords if they find them. So if they discover passwords in a breach, they try them out on other accounts associated with your ID or Gmail. They also use collections of previously discovered passwords in brute force attacks. Once a password is discovered, no matter how strong, it's no longer a secure password. And there are ways that'll be in the article, or you'll find out there are ways to detect if your passwords have been leaked, including one called I've been pwned, and it's a very common one to use. And you put in your own password, your own email address, and it'll tell you whether your email has been compromised. All right, now to something completely different. How many humans have ever lived and how many are alive right now? I'm not sure you've ever thought about this, but according to the Population Reference Bureau, if you travel back to 8,000 BCE, the world population stood at about 5 million. So they start their counting at that point. Of course, they don't have a good list of people at that point, but that's what they're estimating. By 1 CE, the current era, the number climbs to 300 million. So went from 5 million to 300 million in that 8,000 years, before gradually increasing to 500 million in 1650. Once we get beyond the plagues of the medieval period, our population explodes, reaching 1 billion in 1800 and 8 billion today, or 8.5 billion. Taken together, an estimated 117 billion people have collectively lived on our planet. And of that total number, about 7% are alive right now. So you and I are amongst the 7% of the total population of all the people who ever lived. So there's an article about it there from Open Culture. And this lady wants to talk about it.
I have a question. How many people have ever lived? And how many of those are alive right now? So we made a graph. It's wild. So you start here, around when we think our species started to appear, based on archaeological remains. And during this whole part, scientists think there are as many people born per hour today as in all of humanity back then. And for the next 190,000 years, our population barely budged. But then, these geniuses started farming. More food, but also more disease. And still fewer people alive than in Australia today. But growing all of a sudden until in the Middle Ages, whoop, that's the Black Death. The Black Death killed 1 out of every 3 humans alive at the time. Okay, scientific revolution. Now things really start to get moving. Now we're passing 1 billion humans. It had taken all of human history to reach that point. But with modern medicine and new discoveries and treatments, watch this. So if you added up all the people who have ever lived, you'd reach a rough estimate of 117 billion people. And since there are 8.2 billion people alive right now, that means that 7% of all the people who have ever lived are alive today. That's you. So if you think there should be more optimistic science and tech stories, subscribe.
Okay, so that's an interesting little YouTube video there about the same subject. And here's one of the charts I found talking about how many people there were in what year, and down to 9 billion estimated for 2050. Current growth rate, approximately 200,000 per day. So there you go. Yippee, I woke up. Why retirees are always so happy. There we are. $117 trillion world economy in one giant visualization. The US, China, and Germany are the top 3 countries by gross domestic product in 2025. India ranks as 5th, averaging 6.4% in real GDP growth since 2000. So India is growing very, very fast in gross domestic product. So here is the map showing all the countries in the world, or the major countries in the world. China at 19.4, US at 30.6. Largest economy with 69% real GDP growth since 2000. So that's what it is right now. Russia, very small. Germany, much bigger than Russia. Italy, the same size as Russia. Interesting numbers. Gasoline price changes. This is a chart that takes us from February to 23rd to April 13th this year worldwide. I could not find an update on this chart. I tried to find it, but most of the change took place worldwide at that point anyway. But the numbers, very interesting. Russia, 1.5% increase. Not much because they have enough oil of their own that they just take care of it. But Brazil, 7.5. US 35, Canada 28, but more numbers from here. The largest number, Myanmar, 101.1% increase at $1.58 per liter. The Philippines 72% increase. Malaysia 68, so very high. So some of these countries are really suffering, especially in Asia and Southeast Asia, because of the minimal amount of oil getting through the Straits of Hormuz. Now here's the gas prices, US 11.24 to 5.26, and you can see here starting in March the upward thing there, 4.56. It's somewhere around that right now. I know I got gas the other day at Costco and they were over $4, I think, at that point. And some mind-blowing optical illusions.
10 mind-blowing optical illusions. Flat third dimension. Nothing appears abnormal about this Rubik's Cube until you realize it is a two-dimensional image. This illusion is created with a distorted perspective of an image that requires to be viewed at a specific vantage point to create the 3D effect. This is the same method used in the very popular 3D sidewalk art. The Ames Room. The Ames Room illusion creates a cartoonish and very intriguing effect of drastic size differences between people and objects. By tricking your depth perception with an irregular shaped room, the walls, ceiling, and floor align in a way that will appear normal at just the right angle. This causes everything else in the room to appear to warp in size. Following eyes. Here is a simple but very effective illusion that makes it look like these little guys are watching you. This is done by manipulating the way you see perspective and the brain's natural ability to pick out faces and patterns. The head is actually concave, and this sets up a contradiction in your brain to make it look like it's turning to follow you. The dress. Whether you see black and blue or white and gold, this dress has caused debate and confusion. Though the dress is indeed black and blue, it has become a popular example of color constancy. Depending on individual perception, as well as current room lighting, the dress can be seen as either black and blue or white and gold. Circle illusion. It is easy to assume that these dots are moving in a circular pattern. However, they are not. Each dot is traveling in a straight line while on its own path from one end of the circle to the other. By adding each dot one by one, you can see the illusion come into place. Motion illusions. These images are not animated, but they appear to be moving due to the cognitive effects of interacting color contrasts and shape positioning. If you're feeling skeptical, pause this video and watch as these images continue to wave, twist, and pulse. Animation illusion. This clever and old-timey technique creates a multiple frame animation on a single sheet of paper. By manipulating the mind and eye, these still images come to life using a simple graded card. Drop-off room. This 3D painted room is enough to trigger one's acrophobia, as it seems to be a massive drop-off. This painting was created by master of optical illusions, Regina Silveira, whose work often contains a larger-than-life bent reality. Yes, no. Artist Marcus Raitz specializes in optical illusions with his mind-manipulating 3D creations. A prime example of his work is this sculpture of the word yes that can be read from one angle, but moved to another angle and it morphs into the word no. Backwards chair. This chair appears as normal as a chair can be at first glance, but just wait until this man has a seat. It might feel surreal at first, but this chair is actually built in a warped and irregular way that makes it look like it is facing one way, but in fact, it is facing the other way.
So just a little place to go and find some more optical illusions if you find that interesting. All right, open source Microsoft Office 365 alternatives. This is something that I know a lot of us are familiar with, and this is just pointing out that LibreOffice is the gold standard for the local first worker. If you want to use applications that will match up with Word and PowerPoint and so forth, you can use LibreOffice, which has Writer, Calc, and Impress to cover documents, spreadsheets, and slides. So that's probably the first place to go for this. OnlyOffice is another one. When you get to play nice with Microsoft users, also handles DocX and the various extensions of the Microsoft apps. Interestingly, I discovered the other day, I was setting up another computer, and the Microsoft Store. I went into the Microsoft Store, not for OnlyOffice, but I found that the Microsoft Store allows you to install Firefox. And it lets you not only install Firefox, but comes up and says, do you want to make Firefox your default browser? So with all the work that Microsoft does to try to keep us using Edge, I thought it was interesting that the Microsoft Store includes Firefox and includes the instruction to just click on and make it the default browser. I'm not sure if it does the same for OnlyOffice. I haven't installed that, but I might try that just to see. Okay, so Apache OpenOffice is another one, but this is an older one. I'm not sure I'd recommend this one, but this is the beginning of it all, kind of where they started, and the other ones have branched off from that. So this is where some of the other ones have come from. So, but they takes care of docs and spreadsheets as well. All right, the best places to visit in 2026 so unveiled, and me being in Arizona, I thought this was kind of interesting that of these places that were unveiled by this article. Now, this article, you probably won't be able to get to see it. If you want to send me an email, when I send out the information, you'll be able to get my email address, and I can let you know. But this was published in the Arizona Central, the Arizona newspaper down in the valley. But the Reader's Digest, in fact, you can just go search on Reader's Digest. They named Route 66 one of the best places to travel in 2026. Now, Route 66, the first cross-country route in the U.S. It goes back to starting in 1926 to its decommissioning in 1985. Two-lane highway, cross-country, before the interstates took place and wiped it all out, really eliminated a lot of it. But close to 400 miles of Route 66 in Arizona are preserved, including some of the old towns that are very interesting places to visit, places along the route like Flagstaff and Williams. So along that route, anyway, we'll get into the places. There are 16 best places to travel in 2026. Along that route, there's a bunch of them in Arizona. It runs from Chicago to Santa Monica, California. So that would have been an interesting trip back in the 40s or 50s before the interstates opened up. We'll get into that soon. The Wigwam, some of the ones that they suggest you check into, the Wigwam Hotel. I suspect this would still be a pretty basic hotel there, but it was one that was an inspiration for the Cozy Cone Motel in the 2006 Pixar film Cars. So that was actually used as a inspiration for a cartoon. Standing on the corner in Winslow, Arizona, by the Eagles. So that is an interesting place. You can go there and get your picture taken standing on the corner, a very specific corner in Winslow, Arizona. The Jackrabbit Trading Post souvenir shop between Winslow and Holbrook is famous for its "Here It Is" billboard. So it's also referenced in the cartoon Cars. So Meteor Crater, which was listed, you'll remember for a little while ago, as one of the least economical attractions. It's expensive, but it's an interesting thing to see. And downtown Williams, you can stand on the corner in Williams, Arizona. All right, here's one that's a very hard to believe kind of a thing, but a 28-pound Reeves muntjac named Tata. It's a tiny deer. It weighs 28 pounds. This thing is like the size of a medium-sized dog. Native to Asia, took on Maruska, a 1.7-ton female rhinoceros, in a fierce head-to-head battle at the Wrocław Zoo in Poland. The video's gone viral. You'll see why in a moment. Could you imagine this deer? This deer has got guts. It appears the rhino is amused, but then ends up losing the battle, if you will. So here it is. And you notice the deer was giving no quarter. So if you ever find yourself thinking that you're on the losing end of a battle, having the guts to go after the opponent might be what you need. So someone probably forgot to look in the mirror in the morning. All right, Windows 11 is has got Copilot all over the place these days. However, it doesn't have to be. If you decide you want to get rid of it at this point, I don't know how long this will last, but from a website called iGeek's blog, there's several places that have this similar information, but how to uninstall Copilot step by step, all in the articles. You can do it from the start menu. You can do it via Windows settings. You can do it, remove Copilot in the Microsoft Edge, and using the PowerShell command. So multiple different ways to get rid of Copilot if it's just getting in the way of what you do on your computer. It finally lets you uninstall. What happened after the author deleted Copilot? He said nothing. Nothing broke, no missing features, errors, or try Copilot's prompts. So he noticed cleaner taskbar, less distraction, slightly smoother experience on lower end systems, and his workflow had improved. So it's not going to break your system, they say. Also let you reinstall Copilot, and you can do it from the two different ways. From the Microsoft Store, you can go into Microsoft Store and say download Copilot, or you can go to the Windows package management called Winget, which is a way of managing your apps. and that'll let you update apps as well. So there's something that you can do if that's getting in your way. A history of why the Soviet computer failed. I don't know if you ever thought about this, but back in the old days, in the 60s, computers exploded in the United States. There's a timeline of computer history here that's kind of an interesting one to take a look at. You click on that, you're going to get over to the computerhistory.org. And in a moment, when they answer their phone. Their website may be slow. It was coming up very fast yesterday. Let me try redoing it. Well, I'm going to ignore that for now. It's got an interesting timeline. Look at that when you get a moment. What we don't know about is why the Soviet Union tried and failed in their computer efforts. In 1986, the Soviet Union had slightly more than 10,000 computers in the whole country, and Americans had 1.3 million. Why was that? At the time of Stalin's death, they were very proficient computing power. They had a lot of technology. They had the ability to, they went to the Venus. They had launched to Venus. They had launched Sputnik. They had believed in science and industrial modernization, but their support for research and development was plentiful. But why did they fail? First of all, they pivoted to privacy and cloning in the 70s. They chose to clone IBM and DEC systems rather than develop new designs of their own. There were bureaucratic turf wars, means that competing ministries in Russia, one might develop some component, another would be doing something else, but they wouldn't share because they were competing with each other. Mass production and reliability are good at manufacturing big things and not micro things. Fear of the personal computer and data control. Even photocopy machines and typewriters had to be registered with the state. So that is not going to be something that would promote the idea of everybody having a personal computer on their desktop. And there were no incentives for factory managers. If you were manufacturing something and somebody came along with, here's an improvement to that design, we need to stop the line and change the production, didn't want to do that because they had mandated production schedules. They had all top down from the states. The state said, you've got to produce so many this month. And if they wanted to produce a better one, that would slow them down, so they wouldn't do it. So they lost the war. So there's an interesting 19-minute video on YouTube of why the Soviet Union lost. They go into much more detail. It's a very, very interesting video on YouTube. I'm not going to try to play that because that's way too long here. All right, the world's longest burning light bulb has been on since 1901. Hard to believe when the number of times we've changed the light bulbs in our houses. The incandescent, they call it now the Centennial light, been in the San Francisco Bay Area since 1901. It's moved around a few times, but it's been lit almost continuously for 125 years. It's thick glass, hand blown, thick, durable carbon filament, and so forth. So it's really well made. Was mounted on by hand on a sturdy brass base filled with nitrogen gas, which is gentler than the argon krypton used in later incandescents. It's the second longest burning light bulb. The second longest burning light bulb is in Fort Worth, Texas, was made by the same company. Leaving it on 24/7 may have actually contributed to his longevity because turning it on and off can damage the filament. It now runs at a steady 4 watts, much lower than its original 60 watts, but it is still burning. And here is a diagram showing a little bit about how it was made, about the glass, about the filament and so forth, and why it would last longer than the current bulbs. Is it safe to let your browser remember passwords? I've always said no to this when I've helped people with their computers. They would and many people that I've run across have all of their passwords for their bank accounts and their investment accounts and everything else, all casually stored typically in their Chrome account, in their Chrome browser, with no extra password protection. So it'd be better not to do that. If you do that, you should specify a master password first of all, that you would have to give to Chrome to open up your passwords in there, but you're better off to use a dedicated password vault instead. So a better dedicated password manager. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you're letting all of your passwords be casually stored, it's very convenient. You open up your bank account in Chrome, it pops right up on the screen. That's because you maybe stored it in your browsers. But keep in mind, if someone got a hold of your computer, broke into your house, or stole your laptop, they also will have access to all your passwords as well. A giant wave of molasses once flooded the streets of Boston. January 15th, 1919. There was an event known as the Great Molasses Flood. There was a faulty storage tank. It was a huge tank, measured 50 feet high and a diameter of 90 feet. And it was known to rumble and leak from time to time. It was built in 1915. It was very thin-walled, far too thin to contain the weight of a full tank of molasses. On January 12th and 13th, 600,000 gallons of molasses were pumped into the tank, filling it to capacity. 2 days later, it burst from the pressure, sending a 40-foot-high wave of molasses gushing through the streets up to 35 miles an hour. Can you imagine what that would be like? Molasses being a heavy, thick substance. The destructive force of the gooey liquid destroyed buildings and claimed 21 lives, requiring 87,000 workers hours to clean up the event's aftermath. For years after, residents claimed that the area reeked of molasses on warmer days. You ever go out and while you're out, you think this is exactly why I don't go out? Well, that day would have been a good day not to go out in that area. The Boston Daily Globe said molasses tank explosion injures 50 and kills 11. That previous article said that it was more than 11, so they had more people were discovered dead after that. But here's just an actual real picture of the real front page. All right, so let's look at zero-day vulnerability. We've heard about zero-day attacks. What is a zero-day attack? Now, we all use antivirus, and we have various things. We use Malwarebytes sometimes to go through our files and make sure there's nothing in there that needs to be taken away. But your computer can get hacked even if it's fully updated and you've got a really good antivirus. Zero attacks exploit what happens before the antivirus software knows about it and gets fixed up, gets updated. The nature of zero-day exploits is that your malware scanner would show that they were clean before and after being infected. So it's not until your security software provider updates their databases and you take that update that your malware scanner knows what to look for. So timing is everything here. So somebody discovers that there's a vulnerability in one of your apps. This is the point where you've got the problem, starting here. Vulnerability is discovered by hackers because they're looking for that all the time. They're constantly scanning, and these days using AI to scan all the major software packages to find vulnerabilities. So if they find one, they start exploiting it, meaning that they will start going and finding the vulnerability on your system that they can exploit, things they can look for and find your data and find your passwords and so forth. And then the anti-malware people finally find it, and they put it into their antivirus programs. Now, as long as your antivirus program is being updated regularly on a daily basis, that point you're safe, more or less. But then finally, the system itself, the apps get updated. So there's this period of time, and some ways into here if you're not updating your software, your antivirus regularly. So that's what a zero-day attack is, and that's why you can have a clean system, run the Malwarebytes and everything else, be clean if they don't know about a zero-day vulnerability. All right, moving right along, map the income needed to be middle class in each state. Ranges from 39.4 thousand per year in Mississippi to 69.9 in Mass. Northeastern coastal states tend to be highest middle class entry points. In much of the South, households can enter the middle income range at under 45K. And this visualization maps that whole thing to show what you need to be middle class in every state. So here it is. In our state of Arizona, it'd be 54,300 a year to be middle class. In West Virginia, it'd be 40,500. In Washington, it'd be 66,000, and so forth. So take a look at the map and to see whether you're on whether you're considered middle class, and so forth. All right, stunning image reveals the heart of our galaxy like never before. Seeing the unknown. This telescope, the ALMA array, it's called. To see through the dust and everything that's at the heart of the galaxy. There's two little videos we're going to watch talking about the stellar nursery and the laboratory of extremes. The quieter parts of the galaxy starts to burn bright. So let's take a look at the videos. All right, so as a window into the early universe, scientists believe the intense chaotic conditions in the center of our galaxy look like the early universe. It took 160 scientists from 17 institutions to put this all together. So another little brief look at what some of that looks like now. This is a scene from this telescope in Chile, array of telescopes. So there'll be more to find in the links that'll be in the material. AI chatbots could be making you stupider. The paradox, are we getting smarter or outsourcing our thinking? We have incredible technology. We can find all this stuff. I've used it myself. I've used it to help put together some of these presentations. Question is it actually doing us good? Or are we losing some of our basic capabilities due to using these tools? It's so easy and so simple to put these out there. Just put a little quick question out there and get back the answer and use it for whatever reason. Schools are having trouble with this for students using these and so forth. So what is going on here? What is cognitive offloading? Concept is that the habit of letting technology handle mental tasks is cognitive offloading. When you ask a chatbot to do the hard work, like organizing our thoughts, drafting a letter, or analyzing a problem, we skip the productive friction, the mental struggle, the time it takes to put together the answers ourselves, drafting and revising. It's how we learn to retain information and solve complex problems. When we skip the struggle, we miss the learning. So definitely for schooling, but for ourselves in everyday life, is this something that's going to, in the long run, help us or hamper us in coming up with future capabilities? The risk of digital passivity, loss of sharpness. Studies show that we rely too heavily on AI to do our planning and writing. We may find it harder to innovate or spot our own errors. The sycophant problem, AI is designed to help and agreeable. I've had that come out and says, oh, hey, good question. I'll give you the answer to that. It wants to make you feel good about the results that it's coming up with. The bottom line, if you only use AI to do the work for us, we are training our brains to be idle. So staying sharp, how to use AI responsibly. Treat AI as a partner, not a replacement. Use it to brainstorm ideas, but do the writing yourself. Use it to explain a complex topic, but verify the facts independently. Keep the grunt work. Intentionally do the hard parts of your task, writing, planning, researching, and so forth. Stay skeptical. Never trust the first answer what the chatbot gives you. There are multiple chatbots. You can try the same question on multiple chatbots if you want. And final takeaway, your brain is your most valuable asset. Don't let your digital asset do all the exercise. No, your digital assistant do all the exercise. So be careful, be very careful with these chatbots. There was something online for many years called the World Factbook. It was published by the Central Intelligence Agency. It started out years ago. It was originally a classified document entitled a National Basic Intelligence Factbook, launched in 1962. In 1971, it was unclassified, and in 1997, it went online. And it became extremely popular for students, teachers, researchers, had a tremendous amount of information about all the countries of the world, spotlighting just about everything out there. It started in February 2026. The CIA announced that after more than 60 years, is shuttering it. Now we've read in the last the last 12 months or so, how many very valuable government resources have been taken offline. This is one of them. The CIA website offered no reason for the decision other than that I think they're just trying to cut down on the amount of information that the government makes available to people. The fact book offered a detailed by-the-numbers picture of foreign nations, their economies, militaries. After going online in 1997, it became popular with all kinds of people, college essays, racking up millions of visits per year. But now, the World Factbook appeals to researchers. Some readers even inquired whether their preferred geographic designation or world entity could be included, and other only CIA insiders knew that CIA officers were sometimes donating their own personal travel photos to the fact book to put them online. So there were more than 5,000 photographs in there. But now, here are a few things talking about the loss of that World Factbook. Over 60 years was definitive source for research. Widespread link rot. Millions of citations in academic papers, journalism, and government reports are now broken because they were referencing this online source. So you can imagine that millions of citations in various papers no longer any good. It was taxpayer-funded public utility. It was a one-stop shop for us, and it was a very strong resource for educators. So introducing the World Factbook, now called the Open Factbook. Community maintains successor to the CIA World Factbook, comprehensive data on 254 countries, while the interactive archive and GitHub repositories and various other projects were brought together to put this up. It will be maintained and updated by its community of contributors, and it's designed as a living crowdsourced reference to replace what the government took away from us. So regular updates, including geopolitical updates, will be in there. So we can click on that, take a quick look at the Open Factbook, hopefully, if it comes up. I'm not sure why these are not popping up. This is the second one now that I've had not pop up for me right away. Something is going on here. I'm online, obviously. You guys are seeing me and hearing me, I assume. So why that is not happening, I don't know. Let's try it one more time just for the heck of it. Open Factbook. All right. I'm sure those will open up for you when you get them, or something about my system right now. I rebooted my system this morning, and for some reason that came up and it said, do you want to make make Firefox your default browser? And Firefox has been my default browser for years. And it came up and asked me that question this morning. So obviously some update had taken place, that Microsoft had tipped something over probably to make it a little bit weird. So anyway, go and take a look at that and you'll enjoy it, I think. U.S. has happiness ranking since 2011. U.S. fell from the 11th happiest country in 2011 to 23rd in 2025, steadily going downhill. This is from the World Happiness Report 2026. Here's the chart that shows it all. So if we go and look at this, going all the way down there, this number 11, down to 25. And this shows you all the different countries in the world that were referenced in that particular study. Most people are at the age where they are using their phones to document the good times in their lives. I'm at the age where I use my phone to take pictures of labels that I can't read and use my phone to enlarge the print so I can read it. A little different than other people. Look, Ma, no hands. This young lady is not just fiddling with the keys, she's actually playing a real piece. You notice the keyboard is doing the same thing. So, just to show you, you don't need the hands to play the organ. There's an exclusive 23-story Miami hotel vanishing in under 20-second explosion. I wouldn't want it to have been in that dust cloud. Here's a revised school zone sign. Caution, children crossing street looking down at their phones. And that's all, folks. That's the end of it. That's the very last slide. And I will therefore stop my share as soon as I can find out.
Oh, Lord.
I love the school one.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't that a perfect ending and so true?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, my
Right.
gosh. Our first presentation was like going to a tech class for grown-ups. And I kept laughing through JB's. I mean, what a fun way to spend a Saturday looking at what he's compiled and getting a kick out of it. But I would imagine that when he got to Route 66, I was the only one who was singing the song.
Yeah,
And I always start at Winona. And when I was in school, they wanted to skip me 2 grades, and my parents wouldn't let them. But when Daddy from Standard Oil in El Segundo got a 6 weeks vacation, we toured the US, and they took me out of school for 6 weeks and said I'd learn more on the tour than I would in school.
Yeah.
And we went Route 66 all the way. And I can remember laying in the back seat of the car, looking up and seeing the round cooler with, and being held up by the metal things down to the windows, and going through Arizona and New Mexico, and there was really nothing to see. And the criteria was I had to put a report together. I still have that report. And when I look back at it, I drew pictures. I, talked about where we stopped, where we ate, what we ate, and everything. And it was really a lot of fun. But every time someone mentions Route 66, I start singing it out loud if nobody's around or in my head.
Yep.
And I do have some questions here.
Uh-oh, okay.
So I am going to, Steve commented that you can also get to Copilot in your browser, and he has the link here. And the other one is about Meteor Crater. John Kraut said, he does geocaching as a hobby and has given at least one Wednesday workshop. And he said he paid $29.23 admission fee and didn't spend anything else. Then he was there for an hour. But while he was there, he shot a prize-winning photo. And he said it would be expensive if you bought food or souvenirs, but he said he ate out on I-40. There were less expensive restaurants out there.
Yeah.
And I asked if he had hit all 50 states with his geocaching, and he said he's got the lower 48, and he will do Hawaii and Alaska for the first time after he sells his home. So you got comments on, you brought back memories, to John. And we had this, nice conversation about his geocaching, which I thought was way cool. How long does it take you to put this presentation together?
Well, several days. I have, first of all, the research stuff. I use a program called Joplin, Joplin, which is a free note-taking program. It lets you get a link in your browser, and you can just link it and save either just the link or the whole article and so forth into the notebook. The program has got multiple notebooks. I've got one called special topics. So I just put all my notes in there that I find if I go browsing through something online and I say, oh, that's interesting. I just click on the little link on the top of the browser that says save in Joplin. I tell it which notebook to put it in and save it. So once I've got all those saved, actually, there's probably thousands of them in there now. I go back through them and find out ones that are fairly recent and ones that are interesting and put a presentation together. So it does take time. Overall, I don't know, maybe, 1,000, I'm going to say, 1,000 hours to put it together, except, it was actually several days of what it was doing the actual slides. And then letting in this case, letting PowerPoint format the slides, give me format suggestions for the slides to make it a little more interesting than just bullet points. So that's what I do. It takes a while.
So you use PowerPoint, not AI, to make, this.
Yeah, this was
what I mean.
Yeah, I use PowerPoint, put it together myself. Occasionally, I'll have a website that's fairly complex, and I'll ask AI, well, give me some bullet points from this website, but I don't think I did any of that in this one. I think these were all ones that I did myself.
Well, it is just so much fun. And how many overall have you made?
Well, this is number 16, but that does 80 under a different name. So this was number 96 in the series since I started many years ago at Prescott Computer Society. So 96 of those so far.
Good grief. And my member, John, reminded me that Bobby Troop, a good jazz musician, wrote Route 66, which is way cool.
Mm-hmm.
And Edward has Microsoft is phasing out SMS codes for personal account logins and account recovery, vulnerabilities to phishing and SIM swapping, stuff like that. Everything comes and goes. And I know that I have an email address that has all of my, got an idea for a presentation. It says, hint, hint here. It has all my recovery information. And in my digital asset, for executors, I say make sure that that's the one you tell your digital executor to close down last, just in case you muck up and you have to get a new password or something. And okay, JB, think about this. Steve says, have you ever done a presentation on Joplin? Hint, hint.
I have not, but that's a good suggestion. I should.
I
was just thinking the other day what programs might I put together a presentation on? Yeah, I'll put together something on Joplin. That's a good one.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. Over to Don Aerosmith now for questions. Let me find my list here. Where did you get blocked China, blocked Russia, etc., installed in your firewall?
I mentioned there's geofencing available. So it once a week, I think it downloads a list from one of those two sources of IP addresses that are in various countries. And then you set a firewall rule that says if the incoming IP matches one of these, ban it.
And Thomas said, what is the impact of the hard drive rather than an SSD for storage? And how do you save links?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, these are your questions.
How do I save links?
Yeah, the impact of using a hard drive rather than SSD for storage.
Well, I haven't obviously tried that in the small unit that I bought. There's only room for an SSD. If you were reusing a PC or something, there would be room for a hard drive. I'd be interested in knowing how that works out for people. And I'm not sure what links he's talking about me saving.
Okay. And then Bill did a comment about mention that AI like Gemini helps you very much when you are trying to figure out how to install OpenSense.
I'm not surprised.
Doesn't that work for almost everything these days?
Exactly. You know, there's numerous videos on YouTube that I said and other websites. And so, you know, AI gets trained on what it sees, and so it should be able to pick up hints from these various sources.
And on JB's, one of his last slides when he was talking about, you know, teachers and AI and stuff, my AP history daughter, who just retired after 36 years, no AI in her classroom. She wants to make sure that her students are still using their brains to do what Don and JB just did. Be able to put these presentations together from their knowledge that they have learned. So way cool. Does anybody have any questions?
A comment about the song Route 66. There are actually two such songs. One is the vocal by made famous by Nat King Cole. The other is an instrumental, which was the theme song for the TV show Route 66. Two completely different songs.
And Robbie Robinson, who is Frankie Valli's, who is what, 92 or something like that, and he's on his farewell tour. The guy across the street from me was the lead guitarist before he retired, and Robbie from Santa Clarita or Simi Valley is still his main guy. And he has a video put out on Route 66 with one of the female singers, and it is really, really good. So they are still using the music from a long time ago and new stuff. Okay, Thomas says it's the impact of using a hard drive rather than SSD for storage. And I guess since you don't use a hard drive, Don, then your answer's the same.
I can't answer that.
Yep. Okay, let me find. How do the links from end of open? Oh, never. You'll get the links with the PowerPoint presentation. I can answer that one. One more here. Hello, come on. Oh, JB said I've got to go by.
Bye.
So I guess we may as well say we have to leave too. And I can have some breakfast.
Yeah, I've already sent you the PDF slides, Judy.
Thank you. I know I saw that. I checked mail because people they didn't get this link and it went out to, I've always wondered where the links go because I sent them out at 7:30 last night. And I just figure they're out there floating around and people don't get them. And I wish I knew why that happened. Anyway, we're looking forward to you putting something else together for your group, and then we'll piggyback on that. And then your member's going to be giving a Linux presentation on John's Wednesday. So that will be way cool. Nod your head, yeah. Yep. John, you're on.
Another great day. Thank everybody for attending. Because of Wednesday workshops, we don't do a Wednesday, or because of Saturday safaris, we don't do Wednesday workshop before and after. So